Welcome everyone to video 6, the last video in a part 6 series on local evaluations for Iowa 21st century programs. In this part 6 video we will be discussing the local evaluation form, the last 3 sections, Section 6, anecdotal data, Section 7, sustainability plans, Section 8, summary and recommendations, and then we'll have some final words. So let's go ahead and get right into it. If you remember the video 5, we talked about local objectives. Now let's move on to part 6, anecdotal data. In anecdotal data, you need to give us 4 things: some success stories, best practices, pictures, and student, teacher, parent, and stakeholder input. Each one of these has its own required elements. Let's start with success stories. When you're going to give us some success stories, you want to focus on what people have said. Give us some specific examples. Don't say things like, in general, teachers seem to like the program. You can say, gosh, we had a student who a teacher was really having trouble with it. The teacher reported that after they'd been in the after-school program for a couple of weeks, their behavior had improved, their maths, they were more interested in what they were doing, those type of specific type examples. One of my favorites, for example, is the student who enjoyed the after-school program so much, when they got to high school, they volunteered to come back and work in the program as a volunteer. In your success stories, you also can talk about the key people involved in your program. Perhaps you have an outstanding volunteer, a teacher, another paraprofessional. Any of those people you might want to talk about. It's okay to put some quotes from participants, teachers, parents, although there is a separate section for that we'll see here in a minute. And here's a good time to talk about successes on your objectives. Perhaps you had an objective where you were really trying to impact your attendance and it really shows. Here's another chance to brag on it. You probably mentioned it before. So that's what we want to talk about on success stories. Next, we want to talk about our best practices. Now, best practices are in the eye of the beholder, so to speak. So what defines a best practice would be what is the positive impact they have on your program. What problems did the best practice solve? How did the best practice solve the problem? That's what you want to focus on. So describe the practice activity, whatever it may be. Then you need to talk about, how do you know it's a best practice? How do you know it was successful? As an example, perhaps your best practice was having a chess club, implementing a chess club, and the way you measured success was by giving an informal survey, verbal survey with the teachers of the students in the chess club and see if they thought it had any positive impact on behavior, academics, etc. So in this case, since we're not really, if that's type of best practice, of course it's a best practice that impacts one of the GPR measures or your local objectives, this is a good chance to really talk about that. Then talk about why you implemented the practice. Obviously there was a need. What was that need? How did you decide that? And it's always good if you have a best practice that helps attendance or helps student achievement. So if that happens in your program, be sure and talk about that some. And of course there's a place to put this in the box. There's always a box to put things in. Let's talk about pictures for a moment. We like to have pictures in the program. That gives some personality to a local evaluation and the state evaluation for that matter, rather than just dry facts. It's important for us to know and remember that this program is about the children, not about numbers. So you want to put the pictures here. You can put however many you want. We have one suggestion: you should always insert pictures. I realize you can cut and paste, but if you go through the trouble to go up here and go insert pictures, it cuts down, words kind of quirky, it cuts down on the size of your Word file by doing that instead of just copying and pasting. Another thing about pictures is you want to showcase your students engaged in activities and learning. It's great to have pictures, it's okay to put them in here, of a group of students in front of a sign or holding up, wearing their t-shirts or whatever, but it's more exciting to see the students actually engaged in an activity, actually learning something. Perhaps a teacher helping 3 or 4 students together, or pictures of chess club with students actively playing. Those type of things are good pictures that show that. And don't forget to insert. I can't stress that enough. So now let's talk about student, teacher, parent, and stakeholder input. This is where you really want to go heavy with the quotes. You know, my child hated to go to school, and now they get up in the morning and want to go quickly because they know they can go to the after-school program afterwards. Maybe you have some partners that have given you some quotes, said things that were really exciting. You should attribute your quotes. You don't have to give names. In fact, you shouldn't give names unless you have permission. You can use titles. It might be important to say, you know, that the principal, although they'll probably give you permission to use their name. But the quote should say, was it a quote from a student, quote from a teacher, a parent, a stakeholder, someone else, a community member, a board member that came by, who actually made the quote. And of course, you want to showcase the success of your program. You always try to use your evaluation to show the good things you're doing, especially if there's an impact on student attendance, behavior, and academic success. You know, it's nice when the principal says, I attribute our increase in student attendance percentage to the after-school program. Boy, wouldn't that be great. Let's move on now to Section 7, Sustainability Plans. Sustainability plans are very important because, let's face it, one of the definitions of a grant almost is that they go away at some point. So what should you put? What are the required elements for your sustainability plans? You should summarize the original plan from your grant application. You don't have to put the whole thing in here, just give us a summary of what it says. If you have a formal sustainability plan, some programs have plans where partners have signed contracts basically saying what kind of support they'll give. If you have those kind of things, you can discuss it. You may not have it, it says if applicable. Of course, the importance of sustainability plans is to explain how your program will continue once 21st century grant funding ends. And you should always, of course, the most important thing on sustainability, I'm sure, is your partnership contributions. So how will that help the program continue? Remember, the table we did in Section 3 gives your in-kind value. So here's a place where you can say, our partners already provide, you know, $150,000 a year, and they're going to increase, they've promised to increase that, or whatever's going on there. And once again, here's our little orange box to put that into. Finally, we get to Section 8, our summary and recommendations. And there's 4 elements, and each one of these has required elements. Let's look at the summary part. In your summary, you want to reference your introduction. They should support each other, the summary and your introduction / executive summary. Here's your most important chance to showcase the success of your program. What are you doing right? You should, of course, talk about things that you're doing wrong and what steps you're taking to correct that. But always showcase your successes. And you're not doing anything wrong. I misspoke. Things that aren't working out as well as you hoped. Highlight items contributing to program success. We've already talked about some of those: staff members, partnerships, the school district support. Those kind of things are very important to mention. Include your exemplary contributions from people involved. So that's what you should hit in your summary. Next part of this is dissemination of your local evaluation. As we've mentioned before, you need to give us right here the exact URL where the local evaluation's posted. The USDOE requires that. They're going to be, I'm sure they don't read all of the evaluations, but I'm sure they spot check them. We don't want them to click on your link and it doesn't go exactly to that local evaluation, because they won't hunt for it. But you should have other methods of dissemination as well. Do you give a board report? Do you have community meetings? Perhaps you have a governing board for the program that you at least talk to. Do you talk to anybody about person to person? Do you email it out? Maybe you have a shortened version that we've discussed before of it that you share. Those are the kind of things you put on your discussion of the dissemination of the local evaluation. Next, you want to give some recommendations for your local objectives. This is where a good evaluator should be of help. They're evaluating the program. They've not been involved in the day-to-day. They can step back and say, you know, I think these are the objectives that you need to change and why they need to change. Maybe you need to add some objectives. Maybe your objectives are growing stale. Maybe you've met them all for so many years it's becoming old hat. You must include objectives not met, and you must include objectives not measured. You're going to have to do something about those on that. Recommendations on how to meet them, recommendations on how to measure them, or recommendation that we're going to eliminate this one. We can't ever measure it, so we're going to have to get rid of it. And there's a place to put that here. And the last section in the local evaluation form is recommendations on future plans for change. Once again, your local evaluator is a great partner when you're trying to do this. They should be able to help you with this. Are you going to plan any changes in your activities? Are you going to recruit different? Do you have partners that you're going to gain, or maybe you're going to lose some? Well, here's some changes we made on the sustainability plans, because time marches on. Maybe you've had some other businesses or something, they're going to help you more. And any other changes as suggested by the governing body. Here's a good place to put that. So you want to put that in there. So in these 6 videos, we've discussed all 8 of the required sections of the local evaluation form. We hope these videos have been helpful. Let me give you some final words of encouragement, I hope. And reminders. 1. Don't forget the local evaluations due November 30th. If you need an extension, you should talk to Vic Jarvis and see if he can give you one. At his discretion. You need to have a really good reason. Remember, we're evaluating the previous calendar year, school year, not the coming year. Make sure before your local evaluation's turned in, I always recommend the local evaluator be giving a deadline before November 30th so that you'll have the local program director will have time to look it over. Check your data. Your attendance and GPRA, remember, need to match the APR data that you entered. And your local objectives, check the data on those. You want to make sure that that's correct. And, whoa, excuse me, always check your math. As an example, we've had several evaluations where the GPRA percentage of students improved is wrong. So make sure you do that math right. If you need extra help with math, let us know. We'll help you with that. And last, I know I've harped on this a lot, please give us the exact URL where the evaluation's posted. As an example, we gave you, here's the exact URL where the documents are you need, especially the local evaluation form where it's posted. If I had given you just this, you would then have to hunt and search till you drill down to this part. So I don't want you to have to do that, so I gave you the whole thing, same concept. And last, contact any of the 3 of us if you have any questions, concerns, you need assistance. We're here to help you.